We're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony. I mean, that just fits for Get Geekish, too.
That ages well. It does. It really does. Hey, if you're listening, welcome back. It's Get Geekish podcast. I'm Bino, and that's Derek over there. Whichever way, pointing my webcams. For those of you not watching this, that will sound odd. But we're going to talk about some movies and TV shows, I guess I should say, this week. You know, that's a surprise. But what we got on a discussion about was some of the shows that are being remade, revamped, or added on to shows that have already been on and done. There's a whole slew of new ones on the docket, and after doing a little bit of research, because I'd heard about some of the big news, I heard about the Saved by the Bell remake, heard about the Animaniacs remake, and a few other things, but diving into some of the things Hollywood has in store for 2021, I can't decide whether I'm excited or terrified or both.
That they ran out of ideas, maybe?
Well, that's been the joke, that Hollywood's run out of ideas since we were kids, but they still throw out some good ideas now and again.
Yeah.
It's just that, I mean, let's be honest. It's really tough to fault the Hollywood industry for trying to capitalize on nostalgia when, I'm just going to, my camera just went off, dang it. I was going to show you the wall behind me that is covered with nothing but nostalgia.
Now we got a nice image of you as Cable. Oh, there you're back.
All right. But yeah, like, I am a sucker for nostalgia, so it's really easy to see why Hollywood tries to capitalize that and make some money off of it. But
well, we've talked about this before, too. Like, our generation is very nostalgia driven. And I feel like, with our parents' generation, they didn't really capitalize on that nostalgia. They weren't able to. Like, there was a few things every once in a while, with certain things. You're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And you looked at your parents like, okay, cool. But with us, pop culture was really taken off in the 80s and the 90s, and that's when we were all growing up. And now, since we're parents and they have technology at their fingertips to be able to redo things, bring them to the forefront for not only to touch base with us, but to touch base on a new generation. Like, look at She-Ra, and Thundercats, how they rebooted those. Yeah, they changed the animation a little bit and they updated the story, but, they did that because they knew that they could connect with parents and kids. This, however, I don't know. This feels to me like cheating.
What's that?
Well, just, okay, for one, all right, the Dexter, all right? It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's not a revamp. It's not any of that. It's an extra season, and I think it's to apologize. I don't know. But that's the thing is, like, if you've seen Dexter, you know what I'm talking about. The last season sucked so bad. They had all this built up, and then when did that end? 2013, 14, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I wasn't a big Dexter fan. My wife watched a bunch of it, but I was never a big Dexter fan. So,
and it's funny to me that years later we're now getting this quote-unquote final season of Dexter, and I'm just like, I'm excited, but I'm like, is this going to be like an Arrested Development type of thing? Because Arrested Development was great on TV, and then it got canceled, and then years went by, and Netflix tried to reboot it, and it was horrible.
Didn't have quite the same love as the first time.
Yeah, I didn't even finish the season, to be honest. But
I get worried when you go to the Dexter when they say they're literally adding another season on to the Dexter show. And broadcast TV has a way of extending things more than they should. Like, yeah. I could say a lot of my favorite TV shows probably should have been a season or two less than they ended up being. Because they just kept trying to stretch it out and stretch it out and stretch it out. And like with these small stories, keeping the core characters there, once so many big things happen, you've just completely destroyed the plot basics there. So the last couple seasons just end up being complete fluff and filler and random throwing things up and flashback scenes.
Well, not only that too, like a lot of the seasons or the shows that extended to seasons that shouldn't have been there, i.e. Scrubs, one of my favorites, that last season doesn't exist for me. That 70s show they extended, I think, in like an extra season or two, but that's after like some of the main characters had left the show.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, you know, if you have some of those core characters that leave that everybody likes, maybe just stop.
Yeah, stop or do something different. Like you talking about some of these other shows coming up. One of my favorite sci-fi shows was the reboot they did of Battlestar Galactica, which they had an old Battlestar Galactica, and then Sci-Fi rebooted it in the early 2000s, I think it was. And I thought that was a fantastic series. Ending was left a little bit desired, but it was really, really solid. And they had a couple spin-off movies that went along with it. But apparently there's another Battlestar coming, but they're not rebooting it and doing it starting from scratch or having a continuation. They're having the universe that this previous Battlestar created, and it's going to be another, you know, another tale from that universe, but from a different perspective of different characters. Kind of like the Star Treks are doing with the new Star Trek Discovery, where it has ties to the other universes, but it's kind of its own thing. All Star Treks have done that. Between the original Star Trek and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, they're almost like their own little microcosms of a greater universe. And I feel like those...
I think they could get away with that, though, because they're sci-fi. You know, same thing with Doctor Who is... You can do this because you have these loopholes and you have this wide universe. Same with Star Wars as well, you know, with The Mandalorian. My problem is with Saved by the Bell, all right? They did a spin-off of that back in the day, right? Like,
yeah, it was like the college years.
New Class.
Yeah.
Or there was 2 spin-offs, right? Because they did the college years and the New Class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have this one. I didn't even know about this one that's coming up because you said something about it, and I was like, wait, what?
I knew about this. I watched the preview for it for the Peacock Network. Because that's the other thing is all these different streaming programs are trying to hang their hat on a program that is going to be the next like Stranger Things phenomenon. I don't know if this is going to work for these, but apparently one of the former people that my wife knows is actually one of the characters in the show too, so we've got some cool connections there. So I'm hoping it's good. But
is it the original cast?
Some of them. The series is going to follow a brand new group of students at Bayside High from upper and working class families who get in a little bit of a clash after the working class students are transferred to the school as part of a political PR move by California's governor, Zach Morris.
Okay, that explains. I remember seeing a whole lot of Zach Morris things on Twitter a couple weeks ago. So, okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Berkley and Mario Lopez are both going to be back in the show. I don't think they're going to have Screech back.
Yeah, no, he burned a lot of bridges with that book, and then how he acted afterwards. So
yeah, but so the nostalgia of having some of the original characters is going to be there. But I just worry that you almost think they should have just gone for a new show. Because I have a feeling a lot of the humor and things are going to be aimed at the nostalgic class, the ones that are tuning in to see Zach Morris as governor and Elizabeth Berkley and Mario Lopez, are not going to necessarily identify with the main characters. And the people that are younger might identify with the main characters as they're written, probably don't really care about the older ones.
Well, here's the thing, too, is, you know, were you a fan of Boy Meets World?
I didn't like Boy Meets World.
Okay. All right.
I'm apparently in the minority.
Yeah, I love Boy Meets World. What was it, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever, when they were like, oh, we're rebooting it kind of with Girl Meets World where Corey and Topanga have the daughter, blah, blah, blah. I tried watching some of that, and I heard it got better, but it was rough because they tried too hard to capitalized, and the humor wasn't the same. Like, it delivered differently because you had a new younger cast, so they delivered it a little bit differently because it was trying to get, you know, that younger thing, but it was still trying to do that hit us. And I was just like, I don't know. So that's what worries me. Like, well, go ahead.
A lot of these shows had very specific things, like Saved by the Bell. I watched the heck out of Saved by the Bell when I was younger, but it was a cheesy as all get out show. Like, there was a lot of bad filmmaking or TV making elements that went into that show, but we all accepted and loved it. It was part of the bag. So if they try to bring that back now, it's not going to feel genuine at all with some of the cheesiness that was a part of that show.
Well, and even on the other end of the spectrum, if they try to film it properly, it's not going to feel right regardless. You know, if they try to do that cheese in there, you're going to be like, come on, this doesn't work. But if they try to film it like an actual sitcom, it's not going to work because it's not going to. I mean, it might work for the younger generation who didn't grow up with it, whatever. But
I'm just glad they're not going all super dark. I mean, we saw what Riverdale and all that stuff did for the Archie kids.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want to see next time on Saved by the Bell, Zach Morris stuck in the back corner, framed for murder. Like,
yeah, he's a governor. He could be.
That's true.
But, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to throw on there the next thing that Peacock has on their lineup is another nostalgic throwback. Good old Punky Brewster is coming back.
Which that one baffles me too. Because that was only, one season, 2 seasons when it was on?
And everybody knew who Punky Brewster was that was alive in that time because she had all the marketing in the world behind her, but it fizzled really quick. Soleil Moon Frye is the main actress, and she's actually going to return to be Punky Brewster again. But now she's a single mother of 3 kids who meets a young girl that reminds her of her childhood, and her ex-husband is going to be played by Freddie Prinze Jr.
I mean, he's got to do something.
That's one that I will tune in and give it a shot, but I don't have high hopes for.
Why? I mean, why bring that one back? What they could have brought back some other shows like The Secret World of Alex Mack. That was a decent show, you know.
Never watched it.
Erie, Indiana one. That was a interesting show. Yeah. I think those you were a little too old, man, because they were. I was gonna say
that's where we differ. We're just far enough apart in years that like the shows that were on TGIF are completely different for you than they were for me.
Whoa, hold on now. The TGIF for me was like Perfect Strangers, Family Matters, Step by Step. I mean,
okay,
obviously not at the same time.
You tuned into that early. Okay, we're still okay with that.
I'm hitting Nickelodeon shows that I remember just watching like after school or whatever when I was doing my homework type of thing. It wasn't ones that I was into, but I was just there's other premises out there that they could have hung their hat on other than Punky Brewster, but.
Well, speaking of Nickelodeon, Ren and Stimpy's making a comeback.
So, I didn't know this, but you saw it. Did they change the animation at all? Did they show any animation?
I haven't seen anything. I've just read about it on there because I know they tried to do the adult-only spinoff back around 2003 or so that didn't do so well. But
the show itself was...
I mean, for a kid's show, it had some questionable content in it, but it was fun. But Comedy Central had greenlit this back in August for a revamp of the series, and it's not going to have the involvement of its original creator because he was accused of sexually harassing underage girls in 2018.
Ew.
So they're bringing back a irreverent cartoon series that had an adult version of it already fail, and the creator of the show not part of it. So again, I would love to like the new Ren and Stimpy, but high hopes are dwindling the more and more I find out about it.
Well, especially if they and we've talked about this too, like when they redo some of these cartoons and they make the animation a little bit different, to say the least, it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, sir. No. I don't like it. Sometimes they get it right. Like, say, My Little Pony cartoons from the 80s to the My Little Ponies of the 2010s. That was a big step up in there, because I think that was a very well-done show for what it is.
Same with Voltron.
The new Voltron is way better than I love Voltron as a kid, and I went back to try and watch the original Voltron cartoons, and they were trash. But the new Voltron, I was a big fan. I've watched start to finish. The new She-Ra way changed the animation from the original Masters of the Universe, but I think it's way better. And the one behind you over there, you got Looney Tunes and Animaniacs, and they're coming back too.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, so Animaniacs is coming back on Hulu. Tiny Toons is coming back on HBO, because they're also doing Looney Tunes as well on HBO, but this was on the same network when I was a kid, so it hurts my brain that if I want to, kind of re-challenge especially I think Tiny Toons you can watch on Hulu, like the original ones right now. So, but the preview for Animaniacs when it came out, it got me excited. It's 12 new episodes or whatever, and the animation still looks like it feels the same. It looks like they, cleaned it up a little bit, but it still flows. It has the same voice actors, which is great, and the humor looks like it's right on par with, what it was in the 90s and late 90s. Yeah, Tiny Toons. I haven't seen a lot of it, but that was a show I loved growing up. I even had the Game Boy game. It was great. So it kind of makes me want to get an HBO Max subscription just to kind of maybe I'll do the week trial once all the episodes come out.
Give it a shot. Like, because those ones, I think part of the difference with shows like these is they were absurd enough to begin with that they weren't time dated. And you look at a show like The Simpsons, who is, 35 years, 37 years, 32 years, however long it's been going on now.
And a movie.
They made the decision that none of the characters were going to age throughout time, but they've transcended generations with the different technology and things. I mean, you can still watch episodes from seasons 1 and 2, and they're still funny.
It's rough though.
But some of the ones you don't quite get because you don't like that. Things have changed. Personal computers changed, phones have changed, and they've just kept adapting to that, becoming a storyline. And Animaniacs and Looney Tunes the same way too. Jokes that they made on Animaniacs in 1998 are still going to be funny now. The pop culture references have to be updated, which I think that's hopefully the route they're going. But the other jokes that were not pop culture related, fairly timeless.
Doesn't it suck when you're trying to, introduce somebody into, a show or a movie that you grew up with, you loved, and at the time it was relevant with all the pop culture hits and everything like that. And by the time you're bringing this person into that world, years have passed and those pop culture references are dated. So you're sitting there watching it and you're laughing to yourself and you look over and they're just sitting there like all stoic. They're like, I don't get it. You're like, oh.
It hurts a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Like you said, I'm excited because I think that they're going to go the more modern route with still that goofy slapstick type of thing from our childhood, and still do the references, but probably more updated, like you said, just to make it relevant to a more mass appeal of audience.
We went up for some excitement. Now we're back down to some letdown.
Ugh.
It's been 40 years since it was released, but there's going to be a television show about Grease.
What?
They're talking about the rise of the Pink Ladies coming to the small screen. I mean, they ended Grease 1 flying off in a stupid car. Last week's podcast, we talked about that. Then they made a sequel, which completely bombed, but it has its own cult following now, somebody's. And then now HBO Max, set to revive the concept with his own series, Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies.
Is it going to be like a prequel? Or
I think so. So a rehash of a group from a movie that came out 40 years ago with a prequel story that's probably going to be way more modern, and because I can't imagine, I mean, if it's going to be Grease, it had better be set back in what the 60s?
50s or 60s,
50s or 60s? Yeah, I'm so bad at knowing the difference between those decades. I feel so bad about that. But if it's going to be Grease, it has to be placed in the olden times, right? They're not going to do Rise of the Pink Ladies as if they're going to Southern California high school in 2019, right?
They might be going the Riverdale route. Because Archie was set, in the 50s, right? Archie Comics was 50s, and then, you look at Riverdale and it's edgy and present, so...
Just imagining some very, very dark, ominous music and mood lighting, and I'm Sandra D.
Well, I mean, I haven't... The new Twilight series kicked off already, right?
I have no idea.
See, and that's the thing that I haven't heard a lot about. I remember there was a Super Bowl commercial. I don't know if I think it was last year. Time doesn't make sense to me anymore. But I remember seeing that and going, okay, they're bringing that back. And that's something that's always been, you could keep updating that with stories. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it's doing, but that's one that kind of works in its own niche, kind of like the sci-fi ones where you can have... Because, I mean... Twilight Zone is just its own little thing of vignettes every show. It's not really connected other than supernatural spooky stuff.
Mm-hmm. We probably need to bust through a few more of these things because I think we're getting short on time. But a few of the other ones that I can just throw out. Boondocks getting a remake. The Saturday Night Live skit of MacGruber is going to have its own series.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Pause right there.
Uh-huh.
Back up. Boondocks was good on... It was Adult Swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they bringing it back on Adult Swim?
2-season order for HBO Max.
Ugh, dang HBO. And then MacGruber, that was okay. It did a movie that went... I haven't seen it, and it flopped, and they're bringing it back for a show?
Yep. And Will Smith is all behind a new version of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
That one could work.
It could work if they do it right.
They would have to do it right and find the right person to fit that. I know that Walker, Texas Ranger is coming back
with the dude from Supernatural, right?
Yeah. It's weird to me because like they showed kind of like a teaser for it on last week's episode, and he just doesn't. He just has a baby face, like kind of like a, nothing against him, but he just kind of has that like sad face. And I'm like, dude, I'm used to Chuck Norris in this role.
Yeah. Clueless is also getting a remake. It's going to move to Peacock. They're going to have a new version of Clueless.
The show or the movie?
It's going to be a show. But
wait, what?
Is it
already set in the 90s?
It had a television series that lasted 3 seasons and a line of books and a musical, and then it all went away. And then CBS was going to make another series, and they decided to move it to Peacock. So there's going to be another series to follow up the series that followed up the movie Clueless.
Is it going to be set in the 90s still?
I have no idea.
Because I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah. We got new Lizzie McGuire. We got Oldish, which is a spinoff from Blackish. We got Bewitched, Conan the Barbarian, The Jetsons, Jody, which is Daria's best friend from Beavis and Butthead. So a spinoff of a spinoff of a spinoff. Rugrats, Gossip Girl, Dune, The Sisterhood, Designing Women.
Wait, Designing Women has been off the air for how long?
I don't even want to know. Gremlins, Secret of the Mogwai, coming to HBO Max. Animated prequel to the Gremlins movie.
Why?
Frasier, Nash Bridges, Practical Magic, another Power Rangers spinoff.
Nash Bridges was okay. It doesn't need a...
Yeah, I mean, and you go through the list. We got off on tangents of those first ones, and the ones I just blew through, we could talk for another hour about, I'm sure.
I think somebody needs to put a stop to all of these stupid spin-off, like Peacock, HBO Max, everything. They're giving them too much power to go ahead and...
Well, and I know they need the nostalgia to get the hook on something, but...
Well, it's like a guy with a wet spaghetti thrown against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, and to me, the part of the problem of having all these nostalgic things, no, we'll catch the fans of the show the first time around... It doesn't work because if you put, it's a sequel to Saved by the Bell, we've got all these expectations of what's going to be there. So as soon as those aren't met, we don't like it anymore. So just clambering onto the nostalgia bandwagon seems like you're really just setting a lot of these up for failure, because if it's not just like the original or way, 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 way better than the original that everybody loves it, it's going to be a complete letdown, right?
Like, that's how I felt about Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm.
I was there was so much hype behind that. Netflix bringing it back. Oh, yeah, they're going to get backed. We're going to watch this. I watched it. I was like, this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Too much time has passed or something. It just doesn't work. So
But maybe it's just a mad ploy, because if they come out with, say, the new Animaniacs and they are 12 god-awful episodes, it's probably going to make people like you and me go back and watch the old episodes of Animaniacs on a streaming service just to get the bad taste out of our mouth.
I don't know. And the Ren Stimpy one is just... That one's just icky now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, knowing that about the creator now, and then you look back at some of the episodes, you're like, ooh.
Yeah, it happens to a lot of them. But what are you excited about? You've been listening to us ramble back and forth for half an hour about some of these remakes and rehashes of TV shows coming out soon. Is there something that you're super excited about that we should know about? Or do you share some of the same excitement / worry / dreadful terror about some of these coming out?
It's really hard to get excited because I've been burned before, so...
You sound like a really angry, lonely dude at a bar.
Right?
I'll watch your show, but it's probably not going anywhere. Probably not going to watch the next episode. There's another show coming next week. I'll watch that one.
It's hard to get excited when we have that nostalgia that we hold on to. Mm-hmm. You know? But it's also that little glimmer, that little spark, that little warming glow of, well, maybe, just maybe, you know. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yeah. You watch this now. The end of next year, we're going to be talking about how Punky Brewster and Designing Women were the shows of 2021. If that happens, then 2021 has far worse planned for us.
Well, I mean, anything's going to be a step up from this year. So maybe Designing Women's going to be that savior. That one just baffles me. Like, I remember seeing reruns of that, and it was dated at that time. So I'm wondering how they're going to bring it up now.
Hey, I got an idea. We need one of those. Let's throw on a new version of Murphy Brown. How about that?
Dude, I'd watch that.
Isn't Murphy Brown like 85 now?
I don't know. That was a fun show. No, what about Night Court? Bring back that.
I love Night Court, but if somebody tried to recreate Night Court's magic now...
That's true. Or Drew Carey show, it wouldn't work.
God, Drew Carey show. I love that show. Anyway, we're already tangent off there. But let us know at Geekish. Oh, you got one more thing to say there?
I was just going to say, I'm glad that Golden Girls was not on any of those lists because you cannot recreate the magic that those 4 spunky women had on that show. Because that show still is relevant today. I was watching with my wife who's never watched episodes, and she was laughing. I was like, yes, this show is... Don't ever touch it.
That was a good show. And honestly, I think somebody should pay Betty White to just give us a daily recap of good things that happen and tell us good night.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Can you imagine that? Just a 3-minute show a day. If this is Betty White telling you the headlines from today, give us a joke and then tell us good night.
Yes, please. Someone to make that happen.
Please, Betty White, please. Anyway, show sequels, remakes, rehashes. Let us know what you think at Get Geekish, and we will talk at you next week.